Hello and welcome to the April edition of HR Hot Topics. I'm your host, Jody Schaefer, and the video that you're going to watch was actually shot last month and was scheduled to be aired in March. So it's going to be a little bit of splicing here with a new intro, but the video message is still incredibly relevant. It's about upskilling and reskilling your workforce and announcing the launch of a very exciting new HRM product all around training. And we thought that launch was going to happen last month, which is why we shot the video in March. And turns out there were a few more tweaks to be made, so it's going to launch this month, and that's why we put a new tag on the video. So stick with us. Hope you enjoy. Hot Topics. I am your sick host, Jody Schaefer. I have a head cold again, the second time this year. I don't know if wearing masks has dropped my immunity or if I'm just making up for lost time here. But luckily, I have my colleague with me today, Alyssa Parks. You've all recognized Alyssa if you follow these HR Hot Topics videos. She was on with us a few months back. And today we wanted to take off from last month's conversation around some of these sobering workforce statistics and really start talking about solutions. And one of the things I mentioned last month was this idea of upskilling or reskilling a workforce, knowing that the number of people that are going to be in that talent pool will continue to drop for the foreseeable future. So we as employers have to become much more intentional, much more strategic about how we adapt to that. And part of that adaptation is going to be coming up with programs, both internal and external, to provide the workers that are available with the skills we need to be effective in our workplace. And at the end of today's video, I have a really exciting announcement that I think will dovetail very nicely into that. So stick around for the end. But Alyssa, let's talk about this idea of upskilling and reskilling a workforce. What does that mean?
Right. Let's first define it. So upskilling, we're talking about people that you already have in your company, in your practice, in your business, and they may be interested in learning new skills, moving into different roles. Perhaps they're already a really good fit for your organization and your culture, and you already know them, and so they just need some additional skill building and some support to move into a different role. Yeah. Reskilling is people who may be applying or people outside of your organizations who may be looking to move into a different role or potentially industry even, and maybe thinking more, or I should say differently, about who you're considering for your open positions. It may not be someone who on paper and in person checks all the boxes.
Exactly.
But they have some of those soft skills, they were a good fit for your culture, and maybe it's just about them learning some new skills and having potential for that.
So I was going to tell you, I talked to a lady yesterday, and her husband had worked in banking for his entire career. And I mean, he probably has 20, maybe even 30 years of work history behind him. And for the last handful of years that he plans to work, decided to make a total career change and become a flight attendant. Like, he must have the patience of Job. I don't know. But their kids were grown. And, you know, we've heard the term the Great Resignation. And then we've heard this new term, the Great Reshuffling. It's not that everybody left the workforce necessarily, although large percentages did. But the folks that stayed in the workforce and left a job, left to go somewhere else, and maybe a totally different sector, like this gentleman who just wanted a change. And to this idea of reskilling, on paper, I'm not so sure somebody with 20 or 30 years in the banking industry would have been your top pick for a brand new flight attendant. But if you think about what it takes to make it in that industry for that long, probably has some of the skills, you know, patience, clearly, ability to, deal with conflict, flexibility, resilience. I mean, banking's been up and down. Some of those skills that are very transferable in your workplace, but has never been a flight attendant before. So you would have to have some sort of training protocols in place to teach this gentleman how to do this job, even though he's coming into your place of business with all these other intangibles that are highly valuable and sought after. So we don't want to lose out on those folks simply because we don't have a program in place to give them the X's and O's. So that would be kind of that reskilling piece that you're talking about.
I actually think there's also a third category. I'm not sure where it fits, reskilling or upskilling, but it's also looking at students or those who may be very early in their career, even high school students sometimes, or students just out of high school who are interested in joining the workforce, but they don't yet have the skills and experience. They may have some of those soft skills that we talked about and have that potential. So I know of a number of businesses who are partnering with their local career institute or their career center. And while students are getting that education even in high school or maybe the year after, they're doing on-the-job placement with those businesses. And then if it's a good fit, they're able to hire them. So it's a pipeline. So I think we're really talking about how do we create pipelines, more strategic pipelines into the roles that we need.
Yeah, in multiple ways. It's like instead of fishing with a rod and reel, very targeted, you're fishing with a net. You're throwing out a wide range of options, and you're pulling in people at all different points in their professional growth and development. And then you have to have, programs in place, depending on where they're coming in, to meet them where they are and then get them where you ultimately need them to end up in terms of competency and knowledge and proficiency. One of the interesting conversations that Alyssa and I have a lot is, what is the role of like a vendor or a partner or a subject matter expert in creating a knowledge base? And that could be a career institute. It could be a college prep training program. It could be an apprenticeship. It could be services like ours, training services on things like leadership, communication, etc. Where's the role of somebody like that? And then where does the employer come in terms of developing true competency? Because I really think that these the training programs, they provide knowledge, but it's only through practice and on-the-job application that you truly build proficiency and competency in the work. And that's where the employer really needs to step in. So it's identifying what skills are going to be necessary, right? That's your job as the employer. Nobody knows that like you do. It's finding out what are the different resources available to you to help train those skills. And maybe this is you and maybe this is not you. This is maybe where partnerships come in. But once people go through those training programs, how do you then leverage the skills that they've just been trained into a practical application so that they can build true competency in the role? That's where you come in again. So it's like this tag team, right?
Absolutely.
But that's strategic. That doesn't, you can't just wing it, and hope to be effective. These are dollars that you're spending. This is time that you're investing. And this is an impression that you're leaving on every single person you interact with. So the reputation of your entire company is also at stake. If you do it well, it cements the reputation. It helps with your retention of your current staff, which everybody wants to do, and makes you more attractive to bring in new staff. But if you botch it, if you sort of piecemeal it or think that one vendor or one partner is your solution to this, it's not only going to be wasted energy and effort, but it really could do some damage, I think, professionally to your brand and to your image. And social is everything. So one bad experience online, right, magnifies it tenfold, maybe, or more.
So going back to where you started, you really have to have the long view
Yeah.
on this. I mean, yes, you have needs probably right now for filling roles, and we're all feeling that. But think about what maybe can you do short term, but work on long-term strategies.
Simultaneously.
Casting that net, like you said. And as you said, employers have to take an active role. This is not a check mark thing. This is who can spend some time with these employees, no matter if they're upskilling, reskilling, on the job, mentoring, coaching. That is an area that so many employers skip because it does take time and it does take its own skill to know how to coach well. But it really is worth the investment, not only for helping people fit into roles that you need, but retention is so key. Job satisfaction. We know with the reshuffling that so many people are leaving roles because of culture, organizational culture.
Yeah.
And one key reason is that employees don't feel like they're being invested in to increase their skills or supported to grow. And so this will kind of check all of those boxes for helping to retain employees and be an employer of choice.
Yeah. So on that note, the exciting announcement, we have long been known, HRM Services has long been known for our excellent training, specifically in the areas of leadership development, which would fall kind of in this upskilling category, communication, conflict resolution, etc. And as good as it was limited by our capacity to provide that training in person, which is always our preference. But we're a small team. So a couple of years ago, we wanted to take what we teach and we wanted to put it into an online platform as well. We saw that was the way of the future, and while we hope it never usurps in-person training, there's certainly a place for it, and we wanted to make sure that the content was available online as well. It has been a labor of love. I feel like I'm giving birth at this point. It's been so much work. But this month, the new training platform is going to launch. Will, who's behind the camera right now, we've been working diligently on this, really proud of the end product. You're going to be able to tap into that knowledge piece we were talking about, where you partner perhaps with a vendor to provide some of the expertise in a content area. We can be that partner for you on the leadership communication side of the equation. And to your point about coaching and mentoring, your leaders need to know how to do that well to implement the rest of the skill training that we were touching on earlier. So we can be your partner in that. We're certainly available to still train in person, but now we're going to have an online, on-demand option too. And one really cool thing that's happened as a result of COVID is the ability to use technology like Zoom or Teams and provide some real-time facilitation virtually. So we have that option too. We call it a hybrid option. You can have your team consume the online content asynchronously, maybe and control the mounts, and then schedule facilitation calls with our team and your team at the same time to dive deeper into that for real application purposes. And then that makes a natural kind of passing of the baton from a subject matter expert on a content side to the employer in terms of real world application. And that's where the value is. So just so excited. It's called HR Hazmat. So all things HR and sort of scary, and people don't know how to touch it. That's why we named it that. But we're going to continue to grow that body of knowledge, and we'll link to it in the email message this month. So, it's our job to tell you what's coming. It's our job to give you some practical tips and resources for how to prepare for that. But it's also our job to be that subject matter expert and come alongside you with those resources. And so today's topic is really poignant, but this is going to be, as Alyssa said, the long view. This isn't a flash in the pan. So we'd love to be your resource in any way we can going forward. So with that, we'll leave you. Thank you to Alyssa for being with me today. I hope I'm not getting her sick. I should say it's not COVID. I tested myself so many times. It's run-of-the-mill head cold. So, but I hope I don't pass it to you. Anyways, with that, folks, we'll leave you with this month's episode. We'll see you in April.